strange sense of peace at this point, and I don't know what it means. It means I've come to terms with my imminent demise, or whether I've decided to live, or maybe I'm just running out of oxygen in here, I don't know. But there's something that's okay about this, and I just wanted to make a note of it, in case it's okay that I die, I don't know. All right. So behind me is the American Pearl, which is a rowboat that I built with the help of friends, and I then rowed it across the Atlantic Ocean. So I rowed 12 hours a day. I would be at the oars when the sun came up, and I would be at the oars when the sun went down, and I would take about a 5-minute break each hour, and I was pretty serious about that time. If I took a 6-minute break 1 hour, I took a 4-minute break the next hour, because that time adds up pretty fast. And I only had enough food for 100 days, and if I stopped rowing, I was going to run out of food. It's time for breakfast. I'm hungry. There are a lot of things I can put up with. Being hungry is not among them. Yum! One day I was rowing along and I heard what sounded like a wave approaching. And I was like, you know, what is that? Because the ocean wasn't rough that day. And it turned out that there was a sort of cavalry charge of dolphins lining up behind the boat. And because the boat shaded the surface of the water, fish would gather under the hull. And at first it was small fish, and the fish got bigger and bigger and bigger. And it was great entertainment to watch the dolphin fishing. I was 8 days from shore when my boat capsized for the first time, and salt water got into my electronic communications equipment. And salt water and technology really doesn't make us very well. July the 2nd at about 7:30 a.m. And I have been in the cabin for a day and a half now. I still think it's a pretty good theory of if you can leave the coast of North Carolina and get into the Gulf Stream. Benjamin Franklin identified the Gulf Stream and identified it as a warm water current that moves toward Europe. And if you could stay in the Gulf Stream, I think it would be a really fast trip. The challenge was I lost communications, and when I lost communications, I lost the ability to track the Gulf Stream. The temperature of the water has dropped significantly. It is now 70.5, which proves definitively that I am no longer in the Gulf Stream. To the north and south of the Gulf Stream, of course, water, nature abhors a vacuum. So once you're out of the Gulf Stream, the boat's circling in eddies, or it's going the wrong way.
You can have a great day one day, row 35 miles with a positive eddy and some tailwinds and everything. And then if you get in a negative eddy when you go to sleep, you're back where you were or even farther back.
Put out the oars about 6 a.m. It's now, as I said, 5:30. And I've made a whopping 12 miles of progress and have rowed probably 10 or 11 hours. I'm going to do another hour after dinner. But it's a little depressing to work that hard and get, in the grand scheme of things, not very far. So in 1998, it was probably the worst hurricane season on record. I'll take my word for it, these waves are just a little too big to be putting oars out in. I could put oars out in them, I'm just sure I wouldn't have enough of a blade left when I tried to bring them back in.
She had GPS on the boat, so we could watch the plot on maps. We knew exactly where she was in the ocean, but we couldn't get a hold of her. nobody here could communicate with her because the radios had gone down.
Put the oars out, and I'd either break the oar, or I'd dislocate my shoulder, or I'd hurt my elbow, or break my wrist, or something stupid. I was hit by Hurricane Bonnie, which gave me just a couple of bad days. Last night I had what was without a doubt my roughest night on the water. I slept in my life vest, absolutely convinced that the next wave is going to come through the transom and right into the cabin.
It's kind of like watching a car wreck when you can't do anything about it.
After 12 days of storm, I get to row for 4 hours without a flagging wind. And I'm not very happy right now. As happy as I was this morning, I'm unhappy now.
So we watched the storm basically chase her down up the coast and then basically clobber her.
And I won't go anywhere today, again! And I'll be out of food, and it'll be Christmas before I get anywhere! And then I was hit by a hurricane named Danielle, and that was a direct hit. The center of the eye passed within 40 miles of my position. September the 5th, dawn. I'm in by far the most violent storm that I've been in so far. The winds are well in excess of 40 knots, I'm guessing probably 50 knots.
Everybody kind of figured she would hit the EPIRB sooner once the winds got really bad, because I'm sure it was kind of the first day or two was kind of more of a gradual buildup until it finally really caught her with the big waves and stuff.
2 capsizes. The last capsize, I took the rib off the top of my ceiling with my back. It's pretty bleak. I wanted to set off my distress beacon, but I couldn't bring myself to do it because it was too dangerous to ask someone else to come out and get me. I had chosen to go on the ocean in a rowboat, and I had to take responsibility for that. So I cut my tether, cut the sea anchor, they're both gone. The sea anchor that was on the boat, the storm anchor, was gone. I've broken the rib in the top of my boat. So that's that. I would try to get to the EPIRB to set it off, but quite frankly, I don't want anybody else out in this. I got myself into this, and I'm going to live or I'm going to die on the whim of nature, and that's that, huh? I have no right to risk the lives of other people to come and get me out of this wind. Quite frankly, I don't think they'd ever be able to find this little boat. It's so far underwater right now, the only part that's showing pretty much is the cabin. Next night, a hurricane named Earl passed well north of my position, but it triggered a number of rogue waves, and the boat capsized 4 more times. And I looked out and I thought, the waves aren't nearly as big, the winds aren't nearly as strong. I think it's safe enough to ask for help. And I triggered my distress beacon about 4 o'clock in the morning, because I knew by the time anyone would reach me, it would be daylight. And an RAF plane flew over to make sure there was someone or something to rescue. Not a dramatic rescue. Captain Lawrenson circled the boat around me several times to bring the waves down to a manageable level before they threw out a cargo ladder, and I just climbed up. Really give me a good arm.
I'm so glad to see you. Got caught in Danielle.
Got caught in Danielle. And I got a little beat up by some storms before that, but not too many. I only flipped 3 times before Danielle. And then when Danielle hit, 11 times in one day. I glossed over how badly I was injured because I felt like I deserved it at some level. and I probably had some broken ribs. I had big gaps in muscles. I remember my left quadricep was just, there was just a hole in it. And it took years for the sort of gaps in muscles to fill in where I'd been hit by this part of the boat or that part of the boat. And there's still mornings that I get up and I think hurricanes are bad for you. Even now when I'm on the whatever shore of the United States looking at the ocean, I think, what was I thinking? That's a big ocean. But then there are experiences that I've had on the ocean that were just amazing. The stars and the sea turtles and the jellyfish and the birds that would come by and visit were really extraordinary. And that sense of solitude and what you can learn from it was really heartening.